Okay, hello and welcome to another Tech Tuesday. Today we're super excited because we're talking about learning.com and CodeMonkey, which is kind of a special part in learning.com. So, especially if you're new to it, you may not know about it. So, that's what we're here to talk about today. We have with us special guest Susan Thillen. She's a learning.com professional development specialist, and she's going to be teaching us about CodeMonkey today. But before I hand it off to her, we have just a couple of quick announcements for you. First off, we want you to know that we have this month is Digital Citizenship Month. And we have resources for you. I'm going to be dropping that in the chat. But in case you're watching later on our Tech Tuesday YouTube, we want you to visit midlandisd.net/digital citizenship. That's kind of our first announcement is we want to remind all of our teachers that for this month, we want to make sure we meet the requirement to be SIPA compliant. And so there, depending on the grade that you are teaching, there should be really only a few of those lessons. I think maybe 4 or 5 at the most, depending on the grade. But for the lower grades, maybe like 2 or 3 of those lessons. But that is a requirement for us to receive E-rate funding. So if you're not for sure how to assign that or what to do, we want you to visit that link so that you can kind of get more information about how you can get your students to be SIPA compliant. The last announcement we have for you is that this is only in learning.com, which is one of those options for you on that link. But for learning.com, whichever junior high or primary school has the highest completed percentage of those SIPA compliant lessons completed, they will receive a banner. So this is a banner contest. So if you want more information on that, once again, just make sure you visit midlandisd.net/digital citizenship so that you can get your SIPA requirements. And there's also a place in your vector solutions where you will be able to check that off once your students have completed that. So without further ado, we're going to hand it over to Susan. Take it away, Susan, to show us about CodeMonkey.
Well, welcome. I'm Susan with learning.com, and we're here today to talk about CodeMonkey and using coding with your elementary and middle school students. So what I've already done and what you're used to seeing is your campus, and below your campus, your classes that are synchronized. I'm obviously using a demonstration account, so it doesn't really look like yours, but I'm going to focus mostly on Bonham Elementary and this practice elementary class that I have here to show you that the class is already made. So in your case, your class would already be synchronized. I'm going to jump over to assignments and show you that I have already assigned CodeMonkey coding challenges to this class. How I did that was I went to the library, I scrolled down to find where it says Easy Code Foundation Suite and Python. I click on that gray box and there it is. So you've got one item here and that's what you're going to assign. So once you've got it assigned, I'm jumping back to my class because I want to launch it from go back to assignments. I want to launch it from the assignments tab. The reason I want to launch it from there is because I need to make the connection between CodeMonkey coding challenges for this class that's been assigned to the CodeMonkey application. And so we're actually going to connect it from learning.com platform. And then when I click on it, it's going to go to the lesson plans, which this is not where the good lesson plans are. We're going to click on the play button, and this is where it's making the connection from learning.com to CodeMonkey. When it does that, it's going to flash a minute depending on how many classes you've set up. I've set up 2, so you can see that I've named one of them middle coding and one of them elementary. And how I did that, I should have left the other one so it says preview. So what you would have when you have all your classes set up and assigned is you'd have a list and they all say preview launch. And the way that I go about figuring out which class is which is how many students did I put in them. I kind of cheated on this one because I wasn't sure. I made the elementary one first. But the 3 dots on the right-hand side across the row from where it has the classroom name, you would click on nickname and then you would put in the name that you want to call that particular class. That's obviously going to coincide with what the synchronization of the class name is, but it does not pull through, at least at this point. And I haven't heard that that's going to be part of the update. So there is an update that's coming with CodeMonkey. How things are changed, I'm not sure yet because we haven't seen it, but I do know that there are going to be a few changes. So to go into the elementary level CodeMonkey, and you can tell that on the left-hand side, I am at my classrooms. There is a button here that says courses, and I'm going to go to that just to show you that it's going to look similar to what it's going to look like when we go into my classrooms. These are all of the courses, if you will, that are in your subscription to CodeMonkey through learning.com. And so for third grade, it starts with Coding Adventure Part 1 Fundamentals, and that starts at third grade. So these items that are above it, so CodeMonkey Junior is what starts, and you'll see it says Novice. It's got the blue bar at the top. That's where kindergarten first graders would start if you wanted to launch the program and assign it to them at that grade level. So there's four different courses. In the individual courses, there's going to be multiple steps or challenges, as they call them. And the challenges, each one is a step that shows a topic. So let me show you CodeMonkey Junior. So I'm just launching this as a teacher to see what it looks like. And we're not into a class yet. This is just letting us take a sneak peek into the teacher side. So we start coding and it launches. And so the monkey is trying to get the treasure chest, and it shows, so there's no audio directions. Your students will need to look and see how many steps. And so these blocks that are back behind here that are brown are the steps. And that monkey needs to take one step, and woohoo, I've got 3 stars for that. So I can go to the next one, and now they start learning about going left and right. And how many steps do they need to take going left and right? So that's CodeMonkey Junior. So you can see how it makes progression, and obviously it's going to get harder. The monkey is going to be farther away from the treasure chest. As he is introduced to going up and down, there'll be symbols indicating by the arrows that they go up and down. And so the students learn how to direct the monkey to get to the treasures. Eventually, he's going to grab bananas. And the important thing is to get the bananas before he gets to the treasure chest. And so that's part of what the logic is for the students to look at. So, whoops, that's CodeMonkey Junior. Sorry, didn't mean to close that window. No, don't do that. I want to go to, there we go. So let me go back to elementary. So that courses shows you all of the different types of lessons they have. And so you can see once they get into second grade, this one that says block coding for beginner, this would be second grade, maybe first grade, depending on how long they've been working in that and where they got in, how far along they got in CodeMonkey Junior. Once they get down to Beaver Achiever, they do if-else conditions, and there's a mini course, and it's just a fun way for them to use the knowledge that they have while they're still at second grade. Coding Adventure is where they would start in third grade. You can see that there's 3. If I remember correctly, Coding Adventure Part 1 has 75 different lessons in it. So you can tell it's not it doesn't go real fast. They go through a certain series, and then they have a skill level and a practice project mode that they can do. You'll see that there's also skill mode, Part 1, Part 2, and as we get down here, there's a digital literacy, and then we get into text coding, which is their introduction. So this would be appropriate for third, fourth grade, maybe into fifth grade, depending, of course, when they start. But the text coding is going to be where they're getting ready to In other words, they're seeing the text and they're able to type it. And so in this mini course, they're going to be doing more typing than they are using the symbols there at the bottom. So let me show you what that looks like. So this is CodeMonkey, Coding Adventures, and I'm getting ready to see the monkey needs to get to the banana. And so it's showing me that I'm going to type and I need to figure out how many steps that is. And it tells you to run that. And that's not enough. And so I need to change this and make it 15. So they're already, this is the very first challenge. And you can see that up here at the top. So that goes on and on and on. Let me go back to my classrooms. Maybe. There we go. And so then in 5th grade, they would be towards the end of the skill mode, digital literacy. They have some options as far as doing the space adventure, AI is a hoot, block jumper, and platformer, and Frogger. These are the end of what would be, if you were doing all of the CodeMonkey starting at Coding Adventure, 3rd grade, moving into Coding Adventure Part 2 for 4th grade, Coding Adventure Part 3, 5th grade, throwing in some of these skill mode activities. Then by the time they get to 6th grade, they would be looking at platformer and Frogger and game creation, but then also getting into Python. And so Banana Tales is sort of a 5th grade maybe introduction to, it's a very simplistic, it looks like it belongs to kindergarten or 1st grade, but it does use Python. And so that's real coding language. And so the real Python for middle school starts at the advanced level with coding chat box. And so there's coding chat box, there's trivia chat box, and then these down here at the bottom. And so you've got a challenge builder and a game builder that at any point in time, those would be like you're assigning a project. So this is just what's all in your license. So I'm going to go back to my classrooms and I'm going to click on elementary because this is how your teachers are going to go about actually assigning it. Before we assign it, let me show you this real quick. This is progress. This is what happens when that student that I haven't shown you the student yet, but you saw what a student would look like. There's a demo student that I have, and they have done some steps and been successful because they have gold stars. And that gold star, you can see that it shows they got 3 stars for gold, 2 stars are blue, and 1 star is pink. And then an exclamation mark and a black circle is failed. What those actually mean to the teacher is 3 stars means that they're using the newest code that they've learned, the least amount of code that they've learned, and they have successfully solved the problem. So as they get further along and it gets harder, and they choose to go on, meaning they haven't worked to getting 3 stars, meaning the code is all correct. It's the least amount of code, excuse me, there's allergies, and then that they are using the most current code. So usually the most current code means it's going to be something like using a for loop. So instead of doing step 10, step 10, step 10, step 10, it's going to be a for loop to repeat that step 10 4 times. So it would be step 1, and so it's a loop. And so they repeat that and they learn what that loop means. And so you've got these, there's a times loops. That's what I was just talking about. Variables, which we'll go into more advanced, and that goes on. There's a drop down here that your teachers will want to be familiar with as they assign different ones. This is where they choose what level that they're at. And so this is the level that we're at right now. The controls that your teacher had, this is true of all the levels except, I believe it's Beaver Achiever that doesn't have a limit progress. And what that means is the limit progress means I can tell the program that CodeMonkey Junior to only let the students go to a certain challenge. So you see the challenge numbers down here. So the turn to turtle challenges would be from 11 to 20. So if I wanted to let them go ahead and work through stepping and turning, as well as turn two, without really going into a lot of lessons, with just letting them explore on their own, that I can limit this. If I wanted to limit it to 10, I could do that. And that way they're just exploring what it means to get the monkey to take a certain number of steps, to use the ruler, to be able to turn at an angle that starts in those first 10 steps. Free play means that they would just be able to do the whole thing. And so they're able to go on. Limit progress is a little bit tricky, because what that does is there's an expectation, if I apply this, that I'm going to go through the specific lesson plans, and they're going to do the lesson plans as planned in the teacher resources. And where that is found is, I have to find it again because they've moved it. So there's our students. And here's our courses, and it's here. There's the lessons button. And so these courses, we're going to come back to that in just a second. I'm going to finish my thought on the lessons before I forget it. So that limit progress means that I'm going to go to lessons, and here are those first 20, actually 16 lessons, but I'm going to use this to control what your students can do. Most teachers that I talk to don't like to use this method because it takes a lot of work on their part to limit them and keep everybody on a specific step. But it is here, and that is just another way to be able to control how fast your students work. So that's under lessons. Now we're going to go to courses. And so under courses, this is going to look similar to that courses that you see over here on the left. They are not the same, because this tells you specifically what's in your subscription, and this is how your teachers will control what your students can choose. And so what would happen when a student logs in, they log into learning.com as usual, they would have a tile either on their stepping stone pathway, or they would have a tile in their arcade. If I show you that student one, it's going to be in the arcade. And when that is launched, they're going to see a screen similar to this, except it doesn't have these yellow tabs at the bottom, which means they're able to choose anything. And you know that some are going to choose whatever looks good. Maybe I want to do Beaver Achiever instead of Coding Adventure. So what's better is to have the teachers go through and click on that triangle and unassign. This is the part that we believe at learning.com that CodeMonkey is going to fix for us, so that it is more in the library of the learning.com platform, that they're able to say, okay, I want to assign Coding Adventure Part 1. And so just as a heads up, kind of be prepared that if you see, instead of just one title with a link to it, that you're going to see a title that says CodeMonkey Junior Sequencing and Loops, or Beaver Achiever. Again, this would be more for second grade, Beaver Achiever Sequencing and Loops. Both of these are, the Beaver Achiever Sequencing and Loops is pretty elementary. It starts out, the beaver has to put the logs in the correct place in the dam. It's also using left and right, but it's getting the student to understand that the student has to be specific in what directions they give to the beaver. And so the CodeMonkey Junior is a little more elementary than that, definitely more at a kindergarten or first grade level. Still a little bit of the same concepts, but they do, both of them get up into the conditional loops part. If I do this, then I'll do that. So if I get 5 bananas, then I can get the treasure box. So just different ways that they learn different steps. So as you can see from the tab, there are lesson plans. and this just tells you what they can use, what lesson plans are available for you to use, as well as does this work on the web or does it work on a tablet? So web meaning obviously they would be using a computer, a laptop, anything that they can get to on the internet, and then the tablet as well. Does tell you what grades they are on here as well, and then obviously that unassigned. So any of you have any questions about this page that shows the different levels of assignments that are going to be available to your teachers to assign?
No questions right now.
Okay. Then we have a lot more. You have your students. That really is not going to show you too much. It will show you that there's one student in here and what the name is. So as it's populated, it will show progress is actually the same as your grade book. What's good about this is you do have the ability to click on a star, and that's going to take you to what that student did. So you're able as a teacher to see what their answers were, what they put in there. This super hints doesn't really apply much until they get into part 2 and part 3. What that is it will give them a hint that is a little more specific on what they need to be doing. So it's kind of like a help button. There are quizzes that go along with it, and you can click on that. And again, would be where you would put in the date that you want that to populate into their CodeMonkey, and then to assign it to the class. So you would put in a date and then you would assign it to the class, or you could just come here and see what is the quiz about. The grade book is basically the same, except it doesn't show the actual stars. To me, the stars are more important to see how they've made progress. Are they doing 3-star work? Are they doing 2 stars? And trying to go quickly through it. The showroom is where that if they get to a point where they're able to do challenges, so there's the challenges button, and there's the games button. So when they reach that level in 4th, 5th, 6th grade, that they are looking at those courses. Let me go back over here to the courses and scroll down. And so we've got the blocks jumper, we've got game creation, the sprite animation, the Frogger platform. Those are all game creations. And as part of that, they also have the ability to make their own game. And as you get further down here, you've got challenge builder and game builder that's all they are. There's no instructions. There's no, this is what the monkey's supposed to do. This is how he's supposed to do it. It's just the ability for the student to be able to use all the code that they have learned and all the logic that goes along with it. So the challenge builder, it's really just extra practice. There also are skill builders, and I think I scrolled past those already. There's a skill builder. There's a skill builder that goes with CodeMonkey, Coding Adventure. Did I go past it? Maybe I did. But there are skill builders inside of each of the ones so that they are challenged to do more typing. They're challenged to do more working independently as far as without the tips and help that is part of the instructions that are given to them. So that's really kind of the combination between the courses that are available all the way from kindergarten to 8th grade that your teachers can choose from. It's how they would go about choosing the different topics. And then the most important part for your teachers is going to be this teacher resources. It's over here on the left. So again, they've assigned it to a class. They have used the link that is in the class to launch it. So that play button that would be on their assignment page, that's going to launch them into the CodeMonkey interface. And then on the left, they would find teacher resources. So this is where all the resources are. There's a lot of different ways that they are able to get information about any level that they would want to have. So under all courses, There's just a huge amount here. Again, it looks very familiar because it looks like all of those different courses that are available under CodeMonkey. And so I can go into Coding Adventure Part 1. And when I do that, I'm going to see the resources. I'm going to see the solutions. And so that's actually going to tell me what the correct answers are. This is a slideshow, and it downloads. And I don't remember if it's editable or not. I have not used it lately. I don't believe it's editable, but it goes through all of the topics. It talks about the different ones and gives the teacher the components to be able to talk about to their students. It tells them that CoffeeScript is the name of the coding language that CodeMonkey is using until they get into middle school, at which point then they would be turning into Python. So the coding that's using, the logic is always going to be the same. The logic that goes along with if statements or loops is always going to be the same type of logic, but there's different coding languages, and CodeMonkey itself is written in CoffeeScript, and as they get further along, it does switch into where they're using coding. So it gives all the teacher information as far as how long it's going to take. There's a video here that they can show to their class. There's playtime. They would not go this way. This is not going to give them any information, and that is actually going to take away all of their teacher resources because you're not licensed to go through the website. But you can see that there's a lot of information here. If I go back and go down, I've got another link to coding concepts that again have more links to them that are going to give extra in-depth explanations about the concepts that are going to be taught. So here's the simple loops one that it's going to talk about, where the monkey is trying to get the banana. You can see the little video that's here. And then it has about variables. So this can be used either for the teacher to use for the students, or it can also be some information that can be shared with the students in different ways. There's also videos that can be shown for the students. Now you'll notice that these are all for Coding Adventure. If I switch this and go to CodeMonkey Junior, there's the CodeMonkey Junior. So your kindergarten and first grade is still supported. There is a certificate at all the different levels, and there's posters. And so one of the things that's fun about the posters is just kind of give you ideas about what you can do in your class, where you can, assign a person to be a monkey and assign a person to be a banana. And then you've got to talk about left and right and turning. Do I turn to the left to get to the monkey today, or do I turn to the right? And then somebody else can be the treasure chest. And just being able to do that in class and have your students think about left and right. And then moving, how many steps do they move? Again, there's different ways using chairs to be able to implement that. So a lot of ideas are incorporated in these different lesson plans. And so there's all of your different lesson plans. Again, that drop down is how you would find all of that. There is a moccasin match. This actually goes along with the time of year that it is. And I didn't think that there would be too much of a lesson plan there because it's really an add-on. They changed this. Last year they had a Christmas one, a holiday one, where they did some coding and did some fun things with coding that went along with the holiday time of the year. So let me switch over to CodeMonkey Adventure Part 1. And again, there's the slide deck, there's another slide deck for the concepts, and then the videos. Again, a certificate, and then a posters for the different options that are there. So that's the quick view of what's there for CodeMonkey as far as the classrooms. The important part here, so I've gone back to the top of my classrooms and I'm looking at the classroom name. Again, that comes in initially as it just says preview launch. So I don't know how helpful it would be for your teachers. So I have a window open, a tab open to the left of that that shows if I go to my classes, if I actually had a list of classes here, I use two different schools to create the middle school one, but I would have a list of classes here that are using CodeMonkey. And what I would do is there would be a name there for them. In all probability, if you're using learning.com curriculum for SIPA, for digital literacy, for any of those things, you're using your main class that's here that's synchronized, and that's going to be used for that. So in all probability, oops, I don't want to delete that. In all probability, you're going to want to use settings, and you have a row below that name that will let your teachers change and give it a nickname so that you would be able to see what that is. And then when you go to students, you would be able to create a group. And this is probably my impression of where you would put your coding. And so I can make my coding unit here and create that group and enroll all those students, which in my case is just that one student. So I've created the group. I'm enrolling the one student that's in my class. And then I'm going to go to assignments and I'm going to go to the library and come down and find where it says EC Code Foundations and Python and assign that one lesson. And from there, that's when you're going to launch into CodeMonkey platform and be able to then, again, this name is not going to come from learning.com. It's going to say preview launch, and you'll want to click on the dots on the right and edit the nickname. So under middle school coding, basically at this point, I just put in the same assignment, just simply because I wanted you to be able to see the stars and that you do have that limit progress and turn on super hints. There are quizzes. We looked at those and being able to assign those. Those would also show up in the grade book here under quiz reports, quiz results, sorry. And so all of this is tied to that one class. So this really becomes your interface to be able to see how your students are progressing, where you can get the answers. Remember, the answers are going to be under teacher resources. And again, under courses is where your teachers are going to need to go in and unassign. So if this was going to be a third or a sixth grade class, what I would do is I would probably start my sixth graders at an intermediate level, although I may have them do one of the, like a mini course. I may have them do the part one just to test it out and see how they're doing. Marissa, you had a question?
Yes, I like how you put the students into a group and then you assigned your entire class to the group and then you assigned CodeMonkey from the library. You may cover this soon, but as a student, where would they toggle between their normal text quest or their assigned lessons to CodeMonkey?
Where that's going to show up. So to make sure it did not switch screens for me. So give me just a second. I want to switch screens for you so you can see my student. So I've logged in as this, whoops, why does it say I can't share that screen? Okay, there we go. This is in a different browser because I can't use the same browser for a teacher and a student. It fusses at me that way. And so I've logged in as a student. This is what they would see in that group. And so here's that classes button. And if the practice class is the synchronized name of the class, then under number one, there's going to be another one that's going to be the group for that class, and that would be the coding group. I didn't set it up that way for you to see it this time, but that's where that would show up. And then there's your tech quest.
Okay, thank you.
So because there's nothing else assigned and CodeMonkey is always going to be available, there's the card in the arcade for CodeMonkey. You'll notice you don't even have a card because there's no progress. Now, here's the thing about if they do that revision to CodeMonkey that we're expecting that there's going to be multiple. So let me go ahead and go into this so you'll see what the students are going to see when they launch, which I'm going to go to home, I think.
So this is the student view, correct?
This is the student view. And
like you had said earlier, it's all going to change later, but right now the way it's set up is everything is assigned at first, so the teacher would go in and actually unassign with those little drop downs on each square, right?
Yes. So when the student launches, and I've already done that, so I'm kind of already past that very first step, and I'm not sure that I can get back to it because I don't see, I'm afraid it's going to kick me out into the CodeMonkey.com. I do want to point out that on all levels, CodeMonkey does have audio available. And so this is the video that the students would watch that tells them what's going on with the monkey, what's the story with the monkey. So one of the things that's really cool about CodeMonkey is that these characters that you see, and there's more, and they all have a meaning to them. So in the teacher resources, it explains when you get to step number, I don't know, I think it's 12, there's a turtle and the monkey can step on the turtle and the monkey can use the turtle to be able to get across the river, but you still have to count it as a step. And so there's meaning behind all these. And so playing the video and talking about those is important. There is always going to be an audio where they can listen to these instructions. And then there's a play button that's another video that shows watch the tutorial. So there's a lot of help available to the students. And so you see that it's just pointing right now. If we had listened to all those audios and videos, we would know that we're going to find the directions on the screen and in those little pop-ups that show us what we're supposed to be doing. So there's the monkey going to get the bananas. And then there is a play button up here, which is also, if I can move that out of the way, that talks about the concept of sequencing. So there's the big picture of what's going on. So sequencing is the logic that this monkey needs to follow. So all the way back with kindergarten at CodeMonkey Junior, that one I showed you where the monkey had to pick up the, to get to the treasure chest. He turned to the right to get to the, or took a step to the right to get to the treasure chest. So that's all the sequences that's what they're talking about. And that's included in the lesson plan for the teachers of how do you know what to say to your students? What's the vocabulary that's correct for talking about coding? So you have all of that as well. So with that being said, thoughts or questions? This is what you would see on the student side. There is a map. So if they want to go back after they can see that they're locked to a certain point, the student has done 4 steps, they'll do more. And as they get further along, I believe it's about number 12, this skill mode will pop up and they will get a skill challenge 12. So they have to do those first 12 steps and then they'll get a skill challenge. Well, they'll get to review and use their knowledge. It's not going to give them specific directions like measure how many steps the monkey needs to take to get to the banana. It's just going to show the monkey and he's supposed to pick up all the bananas. And maybe that's all it says is monkey needs to pick up all the bananas. So there are the different modes to do as well.
I have a question, Susan. So
Yep.
just to clarify, even if you created a group and added all of your students, if the students just go to the arcade, will CodeMonkey be available there as well if the teacher does not assign it, or?
No, it has to be assigned. And okay. I'm going to switch back over to the other, my other app, my other browser. Let me switch real quick. Not that one. Sorry. Here we go. Okay. So keep in mind that learning.com is an application and CodeMonkey is an application. And so to get the benefit of the learning.com stars and the fact that you're licensed through learning.com, it has to be launched through the learning.com platform. By launching it through the learning.com platform, then it takes you into the CodeMonkey platform, which is really its own it is its own platform. And so it has all of its own interfaces, the gradebook, the all of these tabs that are here are unique to that particular class that it was assigned through. So when the teacher assigns it, it's important once the teacher gets to classrooms, let me see if it'll go back for me. When the teacher gets all of them launched one time, this list is going to grow because there'll be students in there. There has to be students or it's not going to, it won't do anything, honestly. It doesn't really show that there's any link here unless you roll over it. And that was a new thing. It used to be, they were right there. You didn't have to launch into them. And so this is all of them that I have, meaning that this is each class that I have. And so middle coding is not at the same school that my elementary class is. So they need to launch and be sure and nickname, because I think I can see where it would be very confusing, especially if this is someone like a lab manager or a librarian that has, 20 classes in a week, trying to keep track of which ones they are. Because if it's under your ID and that's how you've assigned it, then once you get into CodeMonkey, this is where you would see all of the classes that you've signed. So whether it's a group or whether it's a class, it's still an assignment from your name. And at that point, then in CodeMonkey, you're able to see it here all under your name. Does that make sense? Okay.
I think so. I did have another question. Earlier, you mentioned that after you assign it, that it could be in the arcade, but it could also be on the path. Or did I misunderstand that? Is there it can be in either place?
The way I showed you, I had not assigned anything else. And so CodeMonkey is considered one of our applications that is always available, which is why it's in the arcade. And so that's why you only saw it in the way I assigned it in that one place. However, if I had other assignments, let's say that as part of SIPA, I have created a pathway and I've assigned the digital literacy assignments. And at the bottom of that, I've assigned CodeMonkey. In that case, CodeMonkey is going to be one of the stepping stones on that pathway. And it will follow the rules. It will also show up in the arcade that way because it's still available 24/7. I mean, it's still always available, but it then, because it was, let me show you where that is in the Teacher Center. So if I had other assignments, I am in the library. So if I had other assignments here, let me throw some in here real fast. Maybe I'll be real fast. Okay, so I've got a class. It's my synchronized class. It's got all my students in it. And here is, and I'm going to move coding to the bottom. So here's the SIPA, we'll say, compliant lessons that they're going to need to do. And then here is coding. In this case, if I view this as a student, and I don't know if it'll show me classes or not. I don't think it does. No, it doesn't. It doesn't show me my classes button over here. But this is what it would look like to your students. There's the arcade. It's gray. And so this would be their regular class. This is just the class that is synchronized from your student information system. These are the lessons that I've assigned. They are forced. And so they have to do this last one before CodeMonkey is going to be open. And at that point, then what's in the arcade is also going to be open, and they would be able to use it, from then on out. And so if you added more lessons after that, then they would appear on this pathway. That was what I was talking about. Yeah.
Because even though it's always available in the arcade, if it's put in sequence with other lessons, then, and if the teacher sets it to forced, they still won't be able to open it into the arcade, even though they'll see it until they unlock the other stepping stones first.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay, I see.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
So,
was there anything else, or does anybody have any other questions? I'm trying to think if I have any other questions off the top of my head, but I don't. I think you pretty much cleared everything up for me. So I just kind of want to recap here too. So basically, teacher assigns it. They have multiple ways that they can assign it, like you just showed us. But once both the teacher or the student clicks into CodeMonkey, it opens up in its own platform. And that's where the teacher can take off the they can unassign some of those if they want to as well.
correct.
But on the main page of the student, in that pathway, it's all together on one stepping, or it's actually a signpost. And when they click that signpost, they get the whole platform.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
So several years ago, and it's probably been maybe 4 or 5, CodeMonkey was set so that you could assign it more based on grade level than the way it is on that one link right now. And so we've seen it before. I don't know if they'll do it, back to the way it was at that point in time. But what it looked like is there would have been a block for, let me go down to where the coding adventure is. There would have been a block with the little monkey on the post that is representative of Coding Adventure Part 1. And then there would be another one when it's assigned that says Coding Adventure Part 2. And then there would be another one for Coding Adventure Part 3 when it's assigned. Now, the way it is, when they go to assign those, and I go to the classroom and assign those, which really means to unassign it, they're still only going to see the one. So when your students launch it, they would connect to Coding Adventure Part 1. So all these other ones, if I turn off this one, it's going to look like that. So it says assigned to class. And it may be what they do is they set it up and turn these all to assigned to class. And then when we choose Coding Adventure Part 1, that's what's going to flip this to assigned. So still as a teacher, you would have these controls to be able to go in and assign, especially some of these extras that are here. You would be able to go in to assign that. But we just know right now that it's going to change. I just
I
don't know
see.
how.
So for right now, it's basically just whenever the teacher first assigns it, by default, all of those lessons are assigned and the teacher's unassigning them. But when it changes, it could go to by default that they're all unassigned except for the first one. Is that how
Right.
I'm understanding it? Okay.
Yes, which would
Right.
mean that would make the teacher's life so much easier because it actually would be just like you do everything else in learning.com library. You pick one and you assign it, and that's on the stepping stone, and it launches directly into the coding adventure part 1 or Beaver Achiever, or it's going to launch into that specific one. And as a teacher, you would be able to come in and see this screen that has them all. The way it is right now, and I'm sorry that I had already gone in on the student side, but what the student sees, if the teacher has not turned these off yet, is they basically see, they don't see any of these banners down here at the bottom, but they see the tile. They don't see the little bit of information, but they see the card, and that lets them choose which one they're going to go into. And so my boss and her boss and up the chain realize that this needs to change, and when is it going to happen? Because we have people that are getting to the point in the school year where some of them wants to start using some of these types of things, especially as we get into the holiday and it's harder to get your kids like to pay attention. I hate to say that, but these are fun things to be able to have them be able to do. It's great to be able to use this as part of logic, as you're talking about, coming up on the holidays. What's the logic of going to the grocery store and you're going to buy food for Thanksgiving, or you're going to go shop at the store for toys? What's the logic of how would you do that? How many steps does it take to go down an aisle? So one of the things that we've just rolled out is our AI, and that introduces the concept of coding robots and artificial intelligence, and where the code comes from that goes into the artificial intelligence that helps a robot learn how many steps are in going down an aisle, for example. So lots of fun computer science stuff these days.
Absolutely. Well, Susan, we just want to thank you for showing all of us this. I guess basically the main takeaway is if you're a teacher, just look out for that to change possibly in the near future, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. But other than that, was there anything else that you want to look at today or show us? Or
that is a real fast. Usually this is a 2-hour, much more in-depth dive into all the details that goes along with it. I didn't really get into any of the we didn't go into the teacher resources very deeply or any of these tabs up here other than for me to show them to you. But there's a lot here, and there's a lot for the teachers to explore if they're working through it on their own, but there's lots of the resources are there to support them. And so there you go. Let us know if you're ready for a deeper dive to talk more specifically about them, and I'll keep an eye out. We get updates on when things are changing and happening. There is a rollout because of the new AI lessons that we're rolling out. That's our big push for, I believe it's the beginning of November is when that is really getting pushed out. And so there's quite a few adjustments that are taking place on the platform due to that. So we'll keep you in mind and let you know, or Rachel will let you know when that change takes place.
Awesome. Well, before I close this out, does anybody have any other questions?
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And once again, we just want to thank you for joining us on this Tech Tuesday, whether you're here with us in person or watching later. We will see you next time.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.